Welcome by watching or listening to another episode of Chainsider, where we are meeting and interviewing insiders from the crypto space. And today the guest is Nikita Cikaluk. Hello, Nikita.
GM, everyone. I'm really happy to be at Chainsider. I know that we've been planning this for a couple of months right now, and we're here. Good morning to you, my friends.
So just to give you a little introduction of Nikita, so far he's been writing to Forbes about crypto, also to Cointelegraph. He's been having his own podcast show, We in Web3, and he's also co-host of the show in Rag Radio. And maybe I forgot something, so I ask you, Nikita, what is the thing that I forgot, because you are doing so many things.
Yeah, and you summarized it pretty well by saying that I do so many things. My main role is social contract engineer. In simple words, I'm a connector in the space. So I'm the guy who needs to know everyone from funding, from media, from artists, developers to connect them with emerging startups, emerging conferences, and by being advisor to some of the leading Web3 companies, by being advisor to the biggest startups out there. I make sure that I'm staying up to date with everything that is going in Web3. So, as you mentioned, I'm a host of Rag Radio's OriGensXYZ show that is happening on Twitter Spaces. I'm also a host of Win Web3. So that helps me to stay in touch with some of the biggest OGs in the space. While being active on stage, off stage helps me to develop my advisory career in this space and being connected with the biggest people from all around the world.
Yeah, when you mentioned some conferences, I immediately got in my mind that I forgot to mention that you're also an advisor for NFT NYC. So this is another interesting role. But before we get into more details of this, your position, what you are doing there, why, and so on, I would like to know your story. How did you get there? Because, you know, from the first touch of the Bitcoin Ether or whatever, till the point of now, how did you get there?
I love the question. The first time I touched Bitcoin, actually it was Bitcoin in my case, was back in 2017. And me originally coming from sales slash marketing background, being advisor to different startups in traditional Web2 world, helped me to better understand the technology itself, because I was mainly advising tech companies, health tech, fintech. So the technology of Bitcoin was really simple, understandable for me at the beginning, but it took me a couple of years before I actually bought my first Bitcoin. So for about 2 years up until 2019, I've been analyzing Bitcoin, altcoins in general to understand whether that's something I want to invest in, whether that's something I want to associate my future career with or not. So at around 2019, I bought my first crypto. It was Bitcoin, later on Ethereum, later on a couple of other big altcoins like Litecoin, uh, Polkadot later on, etc. And somewhere around 2020, end of 2019, I realized that Web3 space is much more than just crypto. It's also smart contracts. It's also DAOs. I started learning about digital art, crypto art through NFTs mainly. That's also the time when I started being more exposed in the whole Web3 ecosystem. And finally, I found my passion for digital fashion, passion for NFTs, digital collectibles that I'm surrounding myself right now with all the conferences, with all the startups that you mentioned before. They're somehow connected with one of these main segments of Web3 that I'm specializing in.
What was the thing that was main point of interest why you got hooked into crypto? What was that thing, you know, that got you studying the night and so on?
I do believe that back then it was the idea behind Bitcoin having this decentralized finance, decentralized storage of some fiat value, like being compared to gold, this new digital gold, something that's gonna go not against banks, but something that's gonna offer more alternative way for you to store your money, for you to transfer your money, even though it's not there still because of all this volatile market conditions, because of difficulties of people to actually get their first ledger, their first wallet to get the Bitcoin. But that is ideas that got me interested at first, and I do believe since I've been analyzing Bitcoin for a long time without buying anything, later on, I started also being more interested in altcoins like Ethereum, later on Solana, some altcoins that actually have more use case apart from being store for money, store for this overall value in the digital realm. I realized that it's much more than just money, just digital bank, even though that is a primary idea how I got into crypto space with Bitcoin.
And what was then the other movement when you, because nowadays you are more focused on NFT space, NFT advising and so on. What was the trigger point that dragged you into NFT? Was it the nature of you that you are like a content creator and then that this is the ownership of content and so on? Or what was that? Why are you so interested in NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of different reasons. The first one, the most obvious one, is technology behind NFTs. I believe in decentralized ownership. I believe in fractioning shares of companies, fractioning shares of art through NFTs. I also love the way how artists, the way how project founders can actually create the company, fund the company, and later on distribute ownership, distribute some part of this company, of this project through NFTs. I'm not a big believer in 10, 20, 100K supply of NFTs unless it is some big traditional brand that wants to allocate more of its shares of its project to general audience. But I'm a big believer of smaller projects, NFTs as an access to private club, NFTs that grants you access entry point to some of big artists, big stars by being a loyal client, loyal supporter. So I do believe I've seen this idea very early at the beginning of NFTs boom, like back even before the boom, back at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, when NFTs were mainly about art. And I do believe that the shift of creators in traditional world, and here I'm talking about content creators, I'm talking about artists, the shift from traditional world to digital Web3 world happened that fast that it was just logical for me to also follow it and learn more about it, so that right now 2023 or in a few years from now I feel myself flexible and comfortable not only talking about it but actually building something upon this technology, because there is a lot of different interesting parts of Web3 that I'm a part of, such as DAOs, decentralized social media, crypto investment, but none of them fascinates me as much as NFTs, because NFT technology is something that I'm using on a daily basis, me being a member of different communities. NFT technology is something that I want to use for myself later on for this loyalty club development, whether it will be for 100 people, 500 people, but some of the most loyal partners, clients, friends who I want to see around myself by getting them through NFTs just makes a lot of sense to me.
Sounds cool, and I'm sure that in the next part of the interview we will get back to this because there's really interesting topic, this clubs and daily usage of NFTs. I'm sure many people are really curious that how are you able to use daily NFTs instead of just trading, you know? So, but let's get back to your story. So we know how you get there and why, but what was the, it's always hard to kind of make this first step in, let's say, writing to Forbes or Cointelegraph or just advising some projects. So what was that kind of first step, that visible step, not that everything that you've done before, but like that visible step? How did you get to this? Because sometimes it's really funny story.
Yeah, I really like the quote that says, stick around, just be out there before actually something happens. So I was just, in case of crypto, in case of Web3, I've been sticking around for many years, and not many people know about it. While I've been working in traditional Web2 world, I was just sticking around, learning about the space, making some mistakes by losing money, making some mistakes by forgetting some passwords.
It's not making mistakes and losing money. Just to tell you, it's just paying for the lesson. You're just paying for the lesson.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's I've been investing in myself by learning, by being in the space very early. By the time I was full back in Web 2, and actually my achievements, my results in Web 2 is what helped me to better understand Web 3 space and also granted me some access in this world. So, for example, when we're talking about me writing for Forbes, not that many people know, but actually this 2023 is the fourth year I'm writing for Forbes. I started back in 2020. That was the first year when I started writing for Forbes, and it's right now year number 4 when I'm writing specifically about Web3 world. It wasn't like this at the beginning because I was not sure that I'm good enough, that I'm knowledgeable enough to share my opinion, to share my thoughts about Web3. So at the beginning, it was more about traditional stuff that I did for startup advising regarding brand positioning through social media, brand positioning through marketing strategy development. That's also the way how I got into Forbes by advising one of health tech here in Latvia that I connected with Forbes, and I was facilitating their PR relationships with all of the leading magazines, leading platforms, and Forbes was one of those with whom I remained warm relationships. And after I left startup, I decided that, you know what, I have a lot of insights about marketing space, specifically social media, online advertisement, and I want to talk about it. And it took me a while before I found my niche in writing for Forbes around Web3. Uh, Later in 2022, I also started contributing to Cointelegraph. I helped them with
And how did it
uh,
happen? You just wrote them, or they contacted you, or you just sent them your work?
no,
Or
no, everything that happens in Web3, at least for me, in sense of advising, in sense of creating my own content, being active on stages, off stages, joining some communities, etc. That's all thanks to me once again sticking around, just being with the right people for a long time, people who come up with their own ideas, people who are actively uh, presenting on stages. So in case of Cointelegraph, for example, it was during ECC time that happened this July in Paris. During the conference at one of side events organized by Talent Protocol, so shout out to my friends, I met Cointelegraph team, and specifically Cointelegraph Accelerator, two of co-founders who started Cointelegraph Accelerator a couple of months before that. And by staying in contact with the guys, I quickly realized that actually one of these co-founders is my neighbor here in Latvia. We live 5 minutes apart from each other. And we just decided to connect. We just decided to figure out what is the way for us to cooperate. And somehow it became a routine for us going for morning coffee every week, discussing things in Web3, discussing the next conferences that we both are presenting at, that we both are bringing each other. That's also the way how I build this relationship with Cointelegraph. It also took some time to realize that I can cooperate with them, I can help them. And slowly but steadily, I actually help guys with recent launch of coin historical collectibles that launched of October this year. Basically, that is an NFT project, and that's one of utility-based NFT projects that I'm fascinated about. That allows you to mint all of Cointelegraph articles in limited supply. So whether you are a writer and you bet on yourself, or you know that the first mention of Bitcoin back in 2013. So just like in case of Cointelegraph, that's the way how I connect with people through some of the biggest conferences, events that basically happen almost every week. In particular, I can highlight London, Paris, Lisbon here in Europe. You just go to this event. You just stick to people. You just stick to these conferences. Also, me being supporter of the first editions of the conferences, we met with you at East Gathering. It was the first conference, East related conference organized in Barcelona by our friend Tadeo. It was the first edition. So you support the first edition, you talk, you present at the first edition. Most probably you will stick with this conference for a long time. Just like East Warsaw earlier this year, just like Metaverse Summit in Paris, June of last year. You stick with these conferences, you stick with founders who just joined the Web3 space or who've been there for a long time. And that's the way how you connect with everyone in this space. That's also the way how I connected with Rag Radio by being an early day supporter of their NFT, by being with them for almost a year, by being connected with almost all team members, either online or in real life through conferences. And finally realizing that, you know what, I want to have my own show. I want to be active with Rag Radio family. I want to be a content creator with them. And that's basically how I do all the work, all the stuff regarding content creation and advising in the space by knowing the right people from the conferences in real life. With some of them, I've been hanging for a while. With some of them, I've been presenting on stage. Some of them I've just seen somewhere in real life, and it's easier to connect later on.
And which one from all of those activities would you consider as the main one? Is it possible to say it like this?
You mean activities in Web3?
Yeah, definitely. Like you're presenting, you are hosting a podcast, you are writing, you're a content creator. So is it possible to tell from your point of view that this is my main activity and everything is just around it and it's supporting it?
Absolutely. Yes? Absolutely. Advising in this space, because for me to be an effective advisor is by actually knowing people who can get you access to conferences, to funds, who can connect you with later on projects and developers. And that's just logical for me to know these people in real life that I do through content creation, whether by writing about them, whether by presenting at their conferences or by being a member of their community. So I would say that everything that I'm doing, writing for Forbes for the fourth year right now, being a Rag Radio host since 2022, being an active presenter on stage, it's everything for the purpose of being connected with people and to do business with them later on, either with companies and startups that I'm advising right now, or with their projects later on.
Okay, can you share with us which projects are you advising so we can check it? First one was NFT NYC, right? That we already have mentioned.
Yeah, it seems like I have a very good exposure in sense of conferences, at least for 2023. I'm advising both NFT NYC that is happening in New York this April and NFT London, the first edition of which happened this November, last November, where I was also presenting on multiple stages, and guys found me and decided that they need someone active like me to the team, and it was no-brainer for me because I really enjoyed the team. I really enjoyed the passions, the visions that they have out there. Another conference would be NFC Summit, the biggest non-fungible conference that is happening in Lisbon, organized by a friend of mine, John Karp. It's happening this June, June 7th till 8th. So I'm their ambassador and also advisor in sense of getting the right curators for stages and right partners to make this event happen. We also have Paris Blockchain Week Summit. I do believe the closest conference that is happening this March in Paris, the biggest conference out there that is happening in Louvre. This year, I'm advising them in sense of PR. So once again, my knowledge of text editing, text creation, something that help here to create the right press releases for their partners. Some of the biggest Web3 crypto and NFT projects out there. There's a couple of smaller conferences, smaller events that I cannot disclose right now. But when it comes to startups, it's mainly startups coming from either event organizing or people, Web2 people onboarding space. So that is something that allows people through their app, through Web2 solutions, to be brought to Web3 space by connecting with the right providers, connecting with the right conferences. Not all of these startups I can mention right now. Most probably by the time this podcast will be aired, I will have some more flexibility on announcing those, but we can discuss it later on with you off air. But I can assure you that everyone either already knows those startups or people gonna know in the next year or so, because what people are doing is actually breathtaking onboarding Web2 audience to Web3 space. I do believe that is the next big thing that all this space gonna need.
Okay, now I'm gonna be a little devil right now because I know that you are not able to share some info, but I want to drag some alpha from you. Like, who should we follow in this NFT space, or what should we look at right now? Like, you know, to be first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm having any official advisory relationship, nor I'm saying that I'm not having. But I would say that some of the companies I would strongly suggest people to follow would be, first of all, NFT Factory. That is the Paris-based biggest Web3 community with a physical place. The NFT Factory opened this October in Paris. That would be the biggest French-based and I would say also European-based community who was co-founded by leaders from Sandbox, Sarara, Ledger, some of the biggest conferences in Europe as well. So that would be number one company that I would suggest, specifically you also being a content creator, to follow very closely because some of the biggest OGs in this space, they're coming to their physical space, which is located in the center of Paris, to look at crypto art, as well as to build relationships with people from all around the world who are stopping by in Paris whenever there is a big conference, whenever there is a big gathering, and there is NFT Paris happening this February, there is Paris Blockchain Week Summit happening this March, ECC in July, Metaverse Summit this June. So there is a lot of events happening right now in Paris. So if you want to ask me what is the next big country in sense of Web3, that's definitely France. So Paris with NFT Factory would be one of the peaks. I would also suggest to take a closer look at Bugme Guide. Guys created the first ever application for your Web3 event management and coordination. So whether you're a speaker and you need to check at which events you're speaking, which stage, which time, or you're a general attendee and you need to plan your Q1 2023 in accordance to your beginner, intermediate, or advanced level of the space, Bugme Guide created the first Web2 app that you can download to your iPhone, to your Samsung, that creates this bridge between Web2 and Web3 for people to organize their life in Web3 life in a common Web2 manner. So Bugme Guide would be And other companies that I would suggest taking a closer look. I mean, make sure that conferences, especially first edition of conferences that are happening right now, that is something you're interested in, because that's the way how you learn about the space, about people. That's also the way how you build a strong relationship. So everything that is happening for the first time is something that you need to take a closer look. It's much more challenging with startups because some of these startups are already pre-seed funded and you have never heard about them. But with conferences, it's really straightforward. There is a lot of apps, there's a lot of platforms. Just like Wagner Guides that I mentioned before, you can take a look. What is the first conference that is happening in Prague, in London, in LA right now, to make sure that you are among these first creators, first supporters of this conference, of this gathering. And that's how I would approach this space.
Yeah. Definitely. And speaking of OGs and some big names, who are your favorite 3 people in crypto, let's say?
You mean crypto or Web3?
Like Web3, yeah.
Yeah. It's really tough one because I have so many people with whom I'm in really good relationships and I really adore what they do. And at the same time, there are some of the OGs I've never met before, but I still adore their work and their vision. But I would go most probably, first of all, with G Money. I really love what G Money is doing with Admit One, his community for 1K people that he's building in this Web3 space, and specifically what he has been recently doing with 9DCC, his first digital Web3 fashion house, which was launched August, September of last year. So I'm closely following what G Money is doing in this space. I also personally met and chatted a couple of times with Vitalik. So I'm also a big fan of not like one specific thing that Vitalik did, even though Ethereum is king for me when we're talking about crypto space. I'm a big fan of Ethereum ecosystem, mainly because of NFTs once again, smart contracts out there. But I really love the fact that Vitalik is constantly innovating the space. Here I want to mention Soulbound Token report that he launched last year, May of last year. So the guy who is active on stages, the guy who's actively coding, developing the future of decentralization, also finds time to innovate the space with new projects like Soulbound tokens that he introduced to the space last year. And I adore when people are not stopping only on one thing, because that's what I do. I don't work only on one thing throughout years because I get bored very quickly. I need some innovation. I need some new trends, new technologies, and that's what Vitalik is doing right now in the space that I really adore. And the last one, I don't know. I would say. I really like what maybe Gary V is doing, and I would not say that I'm the big fan of him right now because I have a bit different vision about this space. But I should definitely say that I'm a big fan of what Gary V did at the beginning because mainly through his content on YouTube, through his content on Twitter.
All social medias, yeah.
Yeah, many years ago, I was learning about social media and brand positioning, and 5 years ago, through his content, I found a lot of new emerging artists in Web3 space, emerging projects that I became a part of. So I would love to say thank you for Gary V, but also I would love to say thank you to a friend of mine, Avery Akineni, who is actually right now the president of Vayner3, everything that is happening in Gary Vaynerchuk's company's Web3 ecosystem. And I would consider her as one of the leading women in Web3 space, one of the leading women developers, women advocates for the whole Web3 space. So I would say that the third person I would say thank you to, and the third OGs that I respect a lot would be Avery from Vayner3. Even though the way I found her, even though the way I found a lot of Web3 projects was still through Gary Vee.
It's interesting, really. I didn't expect this, but it totally makes sense. I understand that. Okay, what was maybe some most bizarre thing that you have experienced in probably NFT space, right? There are some bizarre things happening.
So, I mean, no need to look further than last week. Something that happened to a good friend of mine, Crypto Nova, and perhaps you know him as one of the most kind, one of the most friendliest people in Web3 space. He's a big supporter, advocate of NFTs, Web3 space. He's also, till last week, a holder of multiple CryptoPunks, multiple NFT blue chips. And the things that happened to him, he got robbed. He lost all his CryptoPunks. In particular, he lost his legendary CryptoPunk 3706 with this funny clone nose and the hat that he's wearing everywhere, where he's going to resemble his CryptoPunk. He lost all of it. He got robbed. Someone scammed him, took all punks, all NFTs from his collection, and wow. And the things that I'm that sad about is the fact that it still happens in this space. Even though we've been there for many years, it still happens, and it happens to some of the biggest OGs out there. People who are not securing their crypto, people who are not securing their NFTs, good enough. And I do believe that I can already say it right now. Last night, when I was going to sleep, I thought that thanks to some of our friends in this space, in particular Dario, Diziana, or Gwendol from CryptoHood, from MetaHood. Thanks to these guys, we actually managed to get funds to get CryptoPunks, to get CryptoNova's punk back, and we bought his punk back for 78 E's, if I'm not mistaken. And I do believe that this is a good example that community still exists in this space. Community is still strong in Web3 space, and we're supporting each other, we're helping each other. So I do believe that whenever something happens to security in this space, it's the saddest stories that I can come up with.
Just to be completely sure, so someone robbed him for all of his like NFT collection, CryptoPunks, and so on, and then a community gathered, and they put together to be able to buy from the robber,
buy it back. Something like this, yeah. But instead of some random guy buying it, or the robber holding it for like a lifetime period, we actually managed to get this one iconic NFT that CryptoNova was using as his PFP. So I know that it was bought back. I'm waiting for CryptoNova to actually, if you go to CryptoNova's Twitter, you'll see that he got his
I will check it then after this, also how it was robbed, because I like to know the nature of those scams.
It happened just in a week. Everything got robbed in a week. We raised funds. When I say we, community of Web3, I was promoting it. I was sharing with my community, a lot of my friends who got these funds, who could help him directly. And there were a lot of NFTs issued to support CryptoNova, so that secondary sales fees will go to this wallet. He had a chance to donate ETH directly to CryptoNova so that he can get his punk back. But it seems like he got everything back, and it's a strong power of community in Web3.
Yeah, it is, sure. Okay, so what are your next plans? Like, of course, you are going to speak on some conferences, you are going to carry on with the writing, but where maybe do you see yourself in like 3 years or five? Like, do you have something inside of you, like to build some project, or be part of some project, or where do you see yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Some things that I'm planning to start working on already in 2023 is creating this official entity of my advisory. Because right now I'm a one-man team, me being connected with everyone in the space, me being in the middle of all deals, works well for me right now. But I want to scale it up. I want to actually build a proper, powerful brand around my skill set, around my knowledge, around my connections in the space. So I would say that having an official entity around advisory in Web3 space just makes perfect sense to me. That's something that I'll be working on this year, and that's something that hopefully I'll be growing in the upcoming years. Also, last year, I figured out that I'm feeling myself pretty comfortable advising some of the biggest Web3 conferences, Web3 events out there, and I feel comfortable it once again because uh, I have the needed connections of creators, speakers, partners to support these events, and also I feel this good sense of organizing something bigger for traditional audience to come and learn about the space. The content that I create with my YouTube podcast Win Web3 or the content that I am now creating with Rag Radio, OriGensXYZ is educational content. That's me bringing some of the biggest OGs in the space to talk about their original story of Web2, Web3 transition, to talk about the vision behind the space, some of the latest, biggest trends in this space. And through this content, I want not only entertain and help people who are already Web3 native to grow further on, but I want also to onboard this next million of people. So education, both on stage and off stage, will be one of the main priority for me in the upcoming years because I feel that I have the needed knowledge and I have the needed resources to make sure that more people understand the space. I remember myself being back 5, 6 years ago from now, not understanding anything. It took me 2 years to buy my first crypto for a reason. Not just because I was afraid, but mainly because I didn't realize some of the things that were out there. Because there was no one for me to explain some of things that I consider really simple, really straightforward right now. But back then, 5 years ago, I couldn't even imagine this happening with NFTs, with DAOs right now in 2023. So I feel that we need more of these OGs, some of the biggest founders of biggest successes in Web3 to innovate the space by educating people, by explaining complicated stuff in simple words to people and onboard the next million, the next billion to the space. That's something that I want to do not only through my advisory, but also through me being a supporter to some of these biggest projects and biggest conferences that are doing it right now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. What was the best advice that you got while your journey in Web3? Is there anything particular that you remember?
Yeah, most probably I had tons of advices at the beginning, especially taking into account that I was attending all these conferences with the goal to connect with people and to get some clarity from them. Where should I start? What should I do? But I do believe that the most efficient one, the ones that I'm using by myself, and you know it, I'm gonna say it right now, you know it because you met me in person, is an advice to turn around and say hi to people whenever you see someone new, someone interesting, not being afraid to come to people to say hi to them and start the conversation. Because that's how it works in Web3 space. That's how we met with you actually by having this random chat and deciding that we're gonna meet at this specific spot at Ace Gathering in 15 minutes Hey, Nikita, yeah, hey, let's connect with you. Yeah, let's go from there. So just by being open for people, just by connecting with them, because you never know what kind of opportunity it will turn out to be. You never know where this person will be in 5, 10 years from now. And my thesis about the whole Web3 space is that it's gonna stay. It's gonna become bigger, more secure, more effective in years to come from now. And I'm interested in people who are 13, people who are 15, people who are 20 right now, who maybe are not even in this space, but they have the passion, they have motivation to learn about it, or who are already building something out there. So here I can give shout out to my 13-year-old friend Benjamin, who you might know as creator of Crypto Whale project and NFTs that got 5 million funding last
You
year.
got a video with him, right? Interview on your channel.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I got video. I've been attending. Actually, the interviews that we had with him was at his home, where I was invited in London by his family. We spent like we're really close with his family, with his friends, with himself.
I'm sure I haven't seen that video neither, so I have to check it. So I will share that
You're
definitely
gonna
with
love
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And this was like the best advice, but what was the worst thing that happened to you in Web3? We already have mentioned your friend got robbed, maybe. Did something like this happen to you, or what was the worst experience that you managed to have?
I don't know about the worst experience. I guess I can say that I'm fortunate enough either not to have those or not to focus too much. Most probably I had a lot of bad experiences, but I forgot those. I'm not focusing on them. So there is nothing that specific that I can share with you, at least for the last couple of years, but I can share with you perhaps the worst advice that I got from people, from some of OGs in the space, is that I'm too young for this space, that I'm too young for them to consider me as something serious. And I was getting it when I was 22. I was getting it when I was 20. I was already in the space for years. I do believe there is not such a thing as being young. And there will be a lot of people specifically coming from traditional Web2 space who believe that there is a certain career ladder that you need to go through. You need to work in this industry for 10 years. You need to get this position. You need to get that many people under your management before you can actually give some advices and say that, hey, I'm an expert. I don't think that that is how it's going to work in Web3 space. The whole space move so fast that some of the projects, some of the companies that been relevant a couple of weeks ago, they do not exist anymore. So there is no such a thing as you being too old or you being too young. And I just gave you a perfect example of Benjamin, who is 13. And I have a lot of people who are in their 60s who are actively investing in this space. I've been presenting with people on stage who are in their late 50s, and they know this space almost as good as we do. So, I mean, there is no such a thing as age in Web3. And I do believe the earlier you start being curious about this space, the earlier you start learning about this space and putting yourself out there at these conferences, gatherings, being connected with some of the biggest projects out there, the faster you will learn, the faster you will become a thing in this space. So whenever someone says that you're too young, it's too early for you, just
Don't
forget
get
about
it.
it.
Yeah,
Just don't believe it. It's not true.
you're right. Out of pure curiosity, that elderly group of people you mentioned, like 60s or so on, what kind of group of the people was that? Can you like kind of box them? Were
Mainly
there?
crypto, mainly crypto, mainly VC, private investors into crypto, but also people who see a huge potential in metaverse concept,
Mhm.
NFTs, smart contracts, who want to invest in something DeFi related apart from crypto, like investment or crypto trading itself.
So those were not already like developers or this kind of people, not any
No.
managers, but pure people who are like kind of investing and they are okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, they're
They have
investors, they're managers of Web2 companies where they're like partners or like board
Okay.
members, but not developers, as to my knowledge, at
Yeah.
least from my connections.
Yeah. Those have to be people who basically part of their work is to study the new technologies and what is arising, trending, and where the space is heading. Yeah, got it. Okay, let's move further. So now one of those questions like put your money where your mouth goes. So if you had like whatever amount, let's say 10K, where would you invest it right now?
Yeah, it's really simple. I would invest in myself, me being at this conferences, being at this events, because you know that right now for you to get access to some of private gatherings, you either need to be a member of this community of these NFTs, or you need to pay for this ticket. And some of these events that you just must be there, they're pretty expensive. And I mean, not only events, but like transportation around the world right now. So I would continue investing into this logistics of being present at all the biggest events, because that's something that helps me to develop and helps my business, my advisory to develop as well.
Perfect answer. Invest in yourself is always a good idea. Okay, I usually like to ask people what is their way of thinking in like what layers are they bullish on for the future, so on. But as you are more into NFT space, you already have shared people that we should follow, where should we watch. So maybe is there anything else, any other source that you haven't mentioned here yet, and I should definitely, or our reviewers should definitely look at it?
You mean in sense of NFTs?
Probably not. From what I heard, you are expert on NFTs,
Yeah.
so that space is familiar to you, so you can navigate us there.
There's a lot of things, starting with utility-based NFTs, and that's what I'm closely following right now, specifically traditional brands like Dolce & Gabbana, Nike, BMW entering this space and bringing some NFTs that actually have some value in it, in the sense that it either grants you some access to events or it gives you some of the latest products, just like Dolce & Gabbana did with their latest drop last October, having limited edition clothes that will not be available anywhere apart from you holding this NFT. Absolutely love it. But I would say one thing that I'm a big fan of, in particular, and that's also answering your question about layers, would be interoperability. So in this case, I'm bullish on layers too. If we want to talk about NFTs in particular, I'm bullish on NFTs, in-game assets, NFTs as membership that you can use in different communities, different games, different spaces by owning one and granting you access to all of these communities, all of these games. I do believe that soon enough we're going to see a lot of M&A activities in this space, bigger blue chip NFT projects buying smaller projects and having this merge of communities, as well as having some ultimate passes, ultimate NFTs that will grant you access to different communities. And I'm not talking only about allow list, I'm talking about real life experience with different communities at the same time. You having this one NFT that costs like 5 ETH or 10 ETH, which is a partner of that project and cooperating with this company as well, grants you certain access. So I do believe that that is a way to move forward, just like we have partnerships in traditional world. You being a member of this club grants you 20% discount or.
Okay, makes sense. And I'm really thankful for your insightful point of view on this space. So I'm sure I'll be following all your next steps in this space. And I advise that also to our viewers or listeners, if they are interested mostly in NFTs, I'm not that interested in NFTs, but that's something that I need to watch. And as we are investing also, I have to have this knowledge. So let's just move to the last part of questions, which are more questions that are related to your personality. Like, what does success mean for you?
Yeah, it's really simple because it's something I've been practicing for many years now. That's something I'm working hard on. Success means, for me personally, waking up with a smile on my face and understanding that the day ahead that I have, I'm gonna live under my rules, under my agenda. I'm not depending on anyone. I'm not in a rush. I'm living my life in a way how I want it, while remaining this smile on my face. Whatever happens to me, whatever happens around me, I'm still happy. I'm still grateful for what I have, and I'm just enjoying this journey and focusing more on the journey day after day rather than the end result that sometimes does not even come.
That was a really nice answer. Like if I was reading some book from some spiritual really person who is already on that way really far away. Okay, the second one, I would like to know is what does freedom means to you?
Yeah, and freedom is also a part of success. So it's a part of me saying that you are living under your own rules in the sense of planning,
Mhm.
scheduling your days, weeks, months. That's what freedom means to me. When you are not depending on other circumstances around you, and I say mainly business, hobbies, interests, you know that any day of the week you can take a day off because your baby is staying at home, or any day of the week you can leave in the middle of the day because your relative is having a birthday party. That's what freedom means to you
Mhm.
when you are in control of your time.
Okay, I understand that. And what does happiness mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one because I
The-
try to put all of this into one at the beginning just to make sure that
you don't forget anything, yeah?
yes. But I mean, happiness was probably that this feeling inside yourself that regardless of how things are up or how things are down, you know that you still want to go through these bad and good things the way you are, the person you are. You don't want to change your personality. You don't want to change your character. You are who you are. You accept yourself to its fullest, and you want to live throughout all this life
Mhm.
with all the ups and downs with the people who are surrounding you. That's what I would say happiness is about.
Okay, and what do you think about the money? Is money maybe something that you need in order to be happy and free?
I know that some people would argue with me, especially monks and people of older generations that already achieved everything, who would say that money is not the main variables out there. For me, at my age right now, it's an obvious yes. You need money for flexibility. You need money for feeling yourself comfortable at any time of the year of your life. So I would say that money plays a crucial role for you, not just to be happy or successful, because the measurement of success is different for everyone else, but for you to have this freedom from work, freedom from dependency, freedom from the same like money. You need money to be free from making more money. So I would say that yes, money is something that plays big role whenever it comes to this overall success.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so really the last part of our interview will be few sci-fi questions that just top of your head. Like the first one is if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would that be?
Wow, that's a good one. I don't know. Actually, I'm a big fan of movies, so I would say that uh, some of big cinema artists like I don't know Johnny Depp Perhaps
Okay,
many
good
many
choice.
Brad Pitt. Yeah, there would be the
Yeah,
ones I would choose.
I like them both. Yeah, cool. So if you could choose any super unnatural power, what would that be? Superpower.
Yeah, I would prefer to stop time for the people around me so that I can manage to do more twice at the same time.
Okay, cool. This is really nice. I was doing such interviews with influential people from Slovakia. With like, I already had like 40 interviews, and nobody has mentioned and this is a really good one. Okay, if you could join yourself in the Matrix, like Neo, and wake up in the morning and know one skill like perfectly, what kind of skill would you choose?
What kind of skill I would choose? Even though I do believe, I frankly believe, and that's what people say, is that I'm pretty good in connecting with people, networking with people, I would still put all my money, all my skills and time into developing this networking skill, just to be one of the badass networkers out there. So that would be one skill.
Cool, really nice. Okay, so if you could have a one day life change that you could switch your life with whoever on the planet, or just try some work for one day. I know you love your work, but you know, maybe you would like to be for one day like a pilot of plane or whatever. Is there anything that you would like to try, or would you change your life with someone for one day?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to the first question, it would be cinema. I would love to see myself in one of Hollywood films, drama film, thriller films. I do believe uh, with some training, I would be good.
Yeah, like so you could become for one day like Johnny Depp, for example.
Yeah, yeah, something like this.
That would be interesting. Okay, I think that we are able to wrap up our interview right now. Thank you for all the answers that we got, all the insights that we got, and I will be sharing all the links that we talk about and also your personal links below this video. And once again, thanks for your attendance, and thanks to everyone for listening. If you get here to the end, I'm very thankful, and I'm looking forward for any feedback, any comment. It's really valuable for us.
Yeah, I want to also thank you, Randall, for everything that you're doing at Chainsider, everything that you're doing in the whole Web3 space by connecting some of the biggest OGs, some of the biggest builders out there, showing their story and digging deeper into how this space should be run efficiently, sustainably. You're doing an amazing work, and it was nothing but a pleasure for me to be here today with you.
Thank you very much once again. Have a great day and see you
Thank
soon
you very
somewhere
much,
in the
my friend.
conference.
Amazing.